What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Drive for Show, DFS for Dough here on Rotogrinders. We've got another week of golf talk here for you. Happy to be with you as always. I am Justin Van Zuiden. We'll be hosting the show for you. We've got Mr. Derek Farnsworth, aka Notorious, alongside me, and we've got the RBC Heritage to break down this week. So, of course, we'll get to that in due time, but we always have to take a look back at the previous week, particularly when that was the Masters and the Scotty Scheffler 2022 tour rolls on as he wins yet another tournament, probably about the 15th tournament he's won so far this year, it seems like. And, I keep discrediting him week in and week out and saying I'm not going to play him as the highest owned golfer or the highest priced golfer or what have you. And then he keeps on throwing the egg on my face. So kudos to Scheffler for getting the green jacket, and shame on me for being fooled by him again. But Noto, boy, he just keeps winning, man.
Yeah, egg on both our faces for that one. I mean, it's not like I was on him either. 150 lineups, didn't have him in a single one. So felt pretty good about that. Seeing him just get out to, a 5-shot lead after round two. And man, it kind of felt like Cam had a chance on Sunday. Got it to one on the third hole, and Scheffler was in some trouble. And then Cam hit that second shot that ended up right next to Scheffler's, and from that point on, I just kind of felt like he had a new breath of life, and chipped that in and kind of ran away with it after that. But yeah, he just continues to crush. I mean, I was thinking about it today. I would be so happy if the Jaguars could win 4 of 6 games, and he's won 4 of 6 golf tournaments. So it's pretty crazy to see the run he's been on. We haven't seen a run like this in quite some time. So big props to him. Big swing and a miss for me in terms of me pegging him. So yeah, props to Scheffler. But fun tournament as always. It's a little sad to see the Masters go.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was unfortunate. My sweat was over pretty early in the week. After Friday, I did not have exposure to anyone inside the top 10. The entire top 10 was not in my player pool. And, that includes some fairly chalky players. So at the end of Friday, I was cashing 2 lineups out of 150. And that's never a good thing. And so I ended up cashing 20 lineups or something. And most of them were min cashes, but I had a lot of Morikawa. Obviously, we talked about him on the show. I had a lot of Rory. We talked about him on the show, and they both made nice runs on Sunday. So salvaged something back from my entries, but the start was just too brutal for the guys. A lot of the guys in my player pool had 25% Casey, had 25% Oosthuizen. They both withdrew, and it was just that kind of week for me. I know it was a rough week for you too, but you binked a showdown slate on Sunday to salvage a pretty good week. So yeah, wish I could say the same.
I mean, I thought the DFS gods were out to get me. Casey in my main lineup on DraftKings withdrew right before he was supposed to tee off, and then Louis in my main lineup on FanDuel. I was really thinking Tiger making the cut was going to be my only source of money back of the week, but ended up degenerating the late showdown slate and was in second heading into the last hole. I needed a double from Scheffler to pass the guy in first, and lo and behold, 4 putts, 3 putts from about 4 feet for me to pass him. So I'm not going to complain about any bad breaks for at least a couple weeks.
More like a couple days for me. Come on, we'll let you tilt come maybe Friday afternoon. No tilting allowed on Thursday. But so that was the late round 4 showdown, not the full round 4 showdown.
Oh yeah, I mean, I had joined the full four round or the full day showdown, and that lineup was dead. So Tilt entered the just the 5-5-5 late. I just randomly threw a team in there, and I didn't even have Scheffler on it. Yeah, I ended up having like Zalatoris as my captain and Rory and a couple other guys. But overall, fun tournament. Pretty awesome seeing Rory and Morikawa both hole out. They're on
That was
18.
cool.
And I think we kind of had Tiger right. We kind of guessed that he was going to be competitive the first couple of days, and then maybe it would catch up to him, especially with the cold weather. And that's kind of exactly what happened.
Yep.
So great seeing him out there. Great seeing him be competitive. You could tell that it was a test for him. He was laboring for sure on the weekend, but at least we know we can get 72 holes done again. So hopefully we'll see him here in the next couple months.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we hit that one at least pretty good last week. Other takeaway, I mean, poor Rory, if not for Scheffler being superhuman right now, he'd have himself a green jacket and everybody would be talking about that round on Sunday because it was fantastic.
No, he put it up his best round when he was way out of it. I mean, props to him. It was a great day. Maybe he can take, some of this, Sunday low round. And I think he tied the lowest round ever at the Masters on Sunday with that 64. But he just can't. I just don't think he would have done it if, he was, tied or something like that. It just, when the pressure's off, it's just a completely different game. And we kind of saw that with Cam Smith there at 12. He kind of pulled within 2 or 3 after his birdie at 11. And then, it just got too greedy. Number 12 just continues to take souls. So yeah, that's I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't dunk on Rory too much, but we've seen him at this event.
Probably true.
Sunday.
It's probably true. It's not an apples to apples comparison when you're not in the final group there in the heat of the moment. And we have seen him, let us down in those situations. So it's a fair point.
I don't think he was ever within 5 till Scheffler doubled the last. But yeah, great round from Rory. Zalatoris continues to crush majors and difficult courses. It's fun seeing him play so well. Connors at the Masters is going to be a story moving forward. JT once again had 1 or 2 bad holes that took him out of the tournament. We've been saying that about JT at the Masters forever. And then Cam Champ punches his ticket for another Masters with the top 12 finish. So certainly course history goes a long way here, but it seems like recent form goes even longer just because, Cam Smith and Scheffler were the 2 hottest golfers coming in, maybe Shane Lowry as well. And all 3 ended up finishing, in the top 3.
Yeah, for sure. And it was really interesting. It would have been a crazy Sunday if it, heading into Saturday, basically you had Scheffler and then you had 15 guys within a couple of shots. So, it took a little bit of the drama out of it, but still, I mean, it's always fun to enjoy the Masters. Any other takeaways from the tournament for you outside of the guys we've already talked about?
The scoring was a lot tougher than I expected. I mean, we kind of talked about the wind and the cold weather, but man, that course played extremely difficult. I like the changes, on 15. Now there's a decision whether you want to go for it or, lay up on your second. And a lot of golfers were saying, I'm just going to lay up every time. And then they'd get out there, they did a good drive. And then all of a sudden they'd, feel like they needed to go for it. So I like the extra length on that hole. I think 11 is just brutal. I think that play is very difficult. That play is probably as tough as the 13th. So yeah, I mean, I love the changes, love the course, love everything about the event. They just do it to perfection. Love the Masters app. I wish we could have that every week. Nothing bad to say about the Masters.
Well, regrettably, we got to let it go. We got to move forward. We turn the page to a new week, and we've got the RBC Heritage at Harbortown this week. So if you want to chat with us during the show, check out the free Rotogrinders Discord. That's at rotogrinders.com/Discord. You don't have to be a premium subscriber to get access to that. You can get into the live stream chat channel, which is where we will chat with you during the show if you have questions or if you just want to hang out and talk golf. Rotogrinders Discord in the live stream chat channel. We'll see you there. So RBC Heritage, even though it's the week after a major, the field isn't horrible. And I like this tournament. It's a nice change of pace. It's a different style of course at Harbortown, and it's a fun one. So even though there's probably a little bit of Masters hangover out there, this is a tournament that I really enjoy watching and following. So We'll see if it pays off with some good lineups, but I like the course. So why don't you tell the people what we've got at Harbor Town this week?
Yeah, I like the course as well. It's one where everyone's kind of in play. Certainly don't have to have distance. I think the average driving distance on most of the holes is less than 280 yards. So you're going to see a lot of guys club down off the tee. Overall, par 71, 7,100 yards. Pete Dye design, and historically, you can't overpower a Pete Dye course. That's certainly the case this week. The big story for me, the greens, 3,700 square feet on average. For reference, Masters, Augusta National is about 6,700 square feet. We see a couple on the PGA Tour that average over 7,000 square feet. So these are extremely small greens, very tough to hit. You don't necessarily have to be playing from the fairway, but you do want to be on the right side of the hole. A lot of water hazards, a lot of trees that come into play when you're trying to approach these greens. So going to see a lot of mid irons from 150 to 200 yards. And you're going to see a lot of missed greens. So I think stroke gain approach, stroke gain around the green, going to be really big keys for me. The greens themselves, they feature Bermuda with Pga overseed. And that's about all the notes that I have. I think you can look at other Pete Dye designs as, comp courses. Maybe look at Quail Hollow, Sagefield, sort of the Carolina style courses. Do you have anything to add?
I believe they did lengthen two of the par fives by about 35 yards or so. But one of them was like 501 before. So now it's like 530. So, I mean, they're still reachable in two if you hit a good drive, if you decide to hit drivers. So, shouldn't change the way the course plays. But if you look at the scorecard, it is about 60 or 70 yards longer, mainly with those two par fives. Those might be the only two holes that had a distance change. I can't remember. I read that last night. But in any case, that's the two slightly lengthened par fives change to the course. But otherwise, yes, a course where you can certainly look at, you just got to get in position off the tee, and a good second shot golf course, and looking at play around the green. Scrambling becomes a little more important here with the size of the greens, as you mentioned. So with that, we can probably go ahead and dig in. I mentioned the field not horrendous for the week after a major. We've got, let's see, the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, the top 20 or so golfers all played last week. So it's not like you can just avoid guys that played the Masters, because then you're just leaving a bunch of salary on the table. It's not like all these guys are going to be terrible. So obviously, guys that decide to play this week, they're here for a reason. Either they want to be here, they like the course, or they're RBC sponsored, or whatever the case may be. They wouldn't be here if they were just planning on packing it in. So I think a little bit gets overblown with the narrative of guys playing the week after the Masters. I mean, maybe you could make an argument for somebody like Cam Smith or something that maybe his head's not all into this week because of what happened. But other than that, I think maybe that narrative is a little overplayed. So your thoughts on the guys that played last week? And then we've got our usual 5 golfers in the 5-figure salaries on DraftKings. Who are you liking out of there?
Yeah, no worries if they played the Masters last week. And to your point, I mean, if you want to fade everyone that did play, you're going to be leaving a lot of money on the table with so many of the big names playing last week. So at the very top, I'm not forcing anyone in the 10K range into my lineups. I do like the balanced build. Not a ton of values in the 6K range that I love this week, but of the guys up here, it's hard not to like JT. Talk about it being a second shot golf course. Number 1 or number 2 in stroke gain approach and proximity with those mid irons. Pretty much any time frame that you want to look at. T8 here in 2020. I do think Cam Smith is probably going to get overlooked just because nobody knows how he's going to react after, kind of falling apart there on the back 9. I guess it was only just, 1 or 2 holes. He kind of finished strong. So no idea what to do with him. DJ's got the decent course history, but I mean, he took the driver out of his bag last week at Augusta, which is, the most driver-friendly course on the PGA Tour. And he talked about not being able to hit his irons very well. So I'm a little bit worried about DJ. No issue with Morikawa, and then Cantlay just loves Pete Dye courses. So I think for me, JT, Morikawa, Cantlay are going to be my top 3 there.
All right. Yeah, I think it's interesting. We might have a few differences this week. I kind of like the 6K range this week. I think that the punt values are kind of interesting as dart throws, and Doug Gim is only 6,900,
Again,
so he qualifies as a 6K play. But we'll get to him in a while. Really interesting on DJ. I think that those comments are interesting. But he plays here every year, and it's not a course that you would expect him to play well at. But I don't know. I think DJ is one of my favorite plays this week. A little bit of a hunch, a little bit of a course history, a little bit of the form has just kind of started to come around a little bit, and we've only got him around 12%. So I think DJ is probably the strongest top end tournament play on the board. I think going if you start with Thomas or Morikawa or Cantlay at the top, that's fine for cash builds. And I mean, I always tend to be underweight on Cameron Smith, and I'm definitely not going to play him this week after what happened towards the end there at the Masters. And not that I don't think he can play well, just that there's probably is going to be a little bit of fatigue factor, hangover factor, whatever you want to call it for him. So, any other thoughts on that range for you? It seems like DJ will be the one that people are most polarized on this week, one way or the other.
yeah, I was going to say, do you think Cam Smith's the lowest owned of the bunch? It just seems like everyone's going to buy into that narrative. If we just ignored, his last 8 holes and said, hey, he was in 15th heading into Sunday and finished third, he'd be the highest owned golfer this week. It's just weird how, he was in a chance to win and then dropped to third. So now nobody wants to play him. We know the short game's great, so I'm torn on Cam. But yeah, I agree. Maybe I'll come around on DJ a little bit. He does play this every year. The form has been improving. It was weird seeing him not hit any drivers last week.
Cardinal fan in me has to be a little excited right now. Albert Pujols just went yard, and that was pretty sweet. Nice. For a Cardinal fan, with him hitting his first homer back in St. Louis. That's pretty cool. And also, did you see the story on Will Wilcox today?
I follow him on Twitter, but I didn't see anything.
Read it. It's a really good read. And Will Wilcox goes into very vivid detail about his struggle with heroin addiction and a whole lot of heavy drugs while he was on tour. And he got suspended for a time for weed. And it's like, he's like, that's what got me suspended. And I was like shooting heroin and doing a whole lot of other stuff. And like one time where he was trying to kick it and he had like the jitters in the middle of a round. And Lanto Griffin was caddying for him. Fascinating article. Just captivating. And of course, a lot of us followed him when he was on tour and played him in DFS if you go back far enough. But those of you who are watching, obviously too, if you're into golf and DFS, it's just phenomenal read. So check that out after the show.
Yeah, I will for sure.
All right, let's move down into the next range. A bunch of guys, many of whom played pretty well last week. We mentioned Lowry, we mentioned Connors. Matthew Fitzpatrick calls this his favorite course on tour. You'll hear that a few times this week. You've got Sung J M and Jordan Spieth in the 9K range. So again, the field is deeper than what we are used to seeing at a tournament the week after the Masters. So hard to ignore Fitzpatrick. He obviously loves the course. His stats are great. We know he's at a distance this year that you talked about last week. You don't necessarily need that here, but loves the course, and the form has been really solid for the last few months. So Fitzpatrick is my first target in here. Who are you looking at in the 9Ks?
Yeah, I absolutely love this range. This is kind of why I'm thinking I'll start with 2 of these guys rather than somebody in the 10Ks, just because I think the win equity is just as strong in this range as it is at the very top. You mentioned Fitzpatrick. The favorite course narrative certainly plays. The short game narrative certainly plays. He's number 1 on tour this season in strokes game total still. And he's ahead of, Cam Smith, JT, Scheffler, all those guys, which is pretty impressive given, the run that they've been on the last couple months. So I agree with you on Fitz. He will be popular, but I think that's good chalk. I like Daniel Berger right above him. He always struggles at the Masters, so I'm not worried about his T50 finish. Tends to play well on these shorter Bermuda courses. Very good with the irons, accurate off the tee. Corey Connors just continues to play well. I think he's had top 35s in, 9 straight events, which is pretty impressive. So he's been on fire with the irons. I like Lowry a little bit. At the bottom of the range, I love Henley. I think he's a perfect course fit. Here, he has a top 10 last year. He's been playing some great golf. He hasn't missed a cut in 15 straight events. And then the guys in the middle, I mean, I could get talked into Neiman, no issue with Connors. Sung Jae's a guy that always plays well on the shorter courses. So a lot to love other than Jordan Spieth.
Yeah, if it didn't happen last week, I played him at the Masters, for goodness sakes. Even I did. All the guys that I never play that I played last week, Louis, finally the withdrawal bug comes again, Spieth, all those guys burned me last week.
Tiger's out there on one leg, and Louis and Casey just withdraw from little sore backs. I just can't believe it.
Is this a case where even if you're doing like a main lineup that maybe you decide, okay, I'm going to go with like 3 of these guys and avoid the 10K plus range and do it a little more balanced this week, or what do you think?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I think, plenty of time for this to change, but all my guys in my main lineup are between 96 and 76. So very balanced for me, but obviously MME, I'll have, some guys up top as well.
All right. I agree. I think that's pretty viable this week for sure. And then it all depends, I guess, on how much you like that value range. But in the GPPs, I do like the stars and scrubs build in cash games, or if you're just going, maybe for a single lineup build, I think the balanced approach makes a lot more sense. So my favorites in that range, probably Fitzpatrick, Connors, Berger, in that order, I think. We'll mix and match in GPPs and have a healthy dose of Henley as well at 9K. I like. So, all right, let's move into the 8K range here, where the field starts to dip just a little bit, but you got some guys with interesting course history in here, and you got guys with that'd be Webb Simpson. So he's probably a starting point. Webb Simpson, 8 top 20s, including a win here, but the recent form has been a little bit of a struggle for Webb. However, he was in like 14th at the Masters going into Sunday. So let's say Webb would have had a decent Sunday at the Masters and finished like 8th, and you take his course history here, he would undoubtedly have been the highest owned golfer in the field at 8,800. But instead, he shot like a 76 on Sunday, faded to 30-somethingth, and his form outside of that has been a little shaky lately. So now you're getting him maybe only at 14 to 16. We've got him at 16 right now. I think that might be a little high. Hard to say. It all comes down to the course history versus current form debate, which I think is fascinating with a guy like Webb here. Where do you land on him this week?
I was hoping he would be a little lower owned. We have him at 17% right now, but I think I'll be on Webb and MME. I was just looking at his ball striking numbers from last week. He did gain off the tee and tee to green. So I think maybe his game's turning around a little bit. He's finally starting to play, more golf. For a while there, he was playing once every few months. So I can get behind the Webb take. Right below him, Horschel and Hatton got to play together. I think it was on Sunday, and Hatton just lost his mind. And I don't know if you saw the quotes from those two, but
I saw a little bit. Yeah, Hatton is crazy.
Hatton's saying he's going to return here as a caddy rather than a player because he doesn't hit any of these shots usually on the PGA Tour. And then Horschel saying he loves guys that don't flip out on the course, and it's just the wildest quotes from both of them because Horschel is the madman on the course usually. So him being the voice of reason was kind of funny. I don't think I'm going to play much of either of them this week, but I did think that was pretty funny. I like Norn at 8,300. We always talk about his short game. He's gained over 15 strokes with his irons over the last couple months. So the irons are locked in. He's got 3 straight top 30s here as well. And then I'll go back to Tommy Fleetwood. He's finally playing a little bit better on the PGA Tour. The ball striking numbers look much better than they did last year. So I like Noren and Fleetwood the best, but I'll have some Webb as well.
I think Noren is really interesting. He's a guy I've come around on a lot in the last 24 hours. When you look at his numbers and you got his course history here?
Yeah, 3 straight top 30s.
Yeah, so pretty solid, and the stats are better than what they were, say, trailing the previous 12 months coming into this. So Norin, I do like a lot. He'll probably be my second highest owned in this range behind Webb. So like both of them, like the Fleetwood call as well. Played a little bit of him last week. Really nothing to.
What are you doing with Kisner? It seems like we should just play him at these tracks, even though
I know it, but it is like it's got to stand out like a sore thumb in your numbers there. That it's just he just doesn't grade out as well as basically anybody within about 10 spots of him.
Yeah, he's 38th in the model, which is not good. But I mean, there's like 8 tournaments a year that.
No, I know.
So I don't know. I think I'll play some, especially if he's going to be low owned. He does have a 7th, and 11th here, so I'll probably play some if he stays pretty low owned.
All right, we can do it. We can do it together. I have to look at it a little bit more. Usually, I just X him out because he always seems overpriced.
Yeah.
So I admittedly haven't looked super deep. Because you got Kirk there and McNeely there, and then you get into the 7Ks, and you've got Mr. RBC Heritage Matt Kuchar, who's suddenly good again. Matt Kuchar is on the rise. So I see you've got him tagged up in our lineup HQ here. Pretty sure we haven't gone back in time. So yeah, Kuchar, you can make a good case for him this week.
Yeah, I think my note was it's 2022, and I'm recommending Matt Kuchar. I can't end well, but I mean, he's made 10 straight cuts here. He's got to win 3 other top 10s. He's coming off with 2 of his best finishes of the season. T16 at Valero, second place at Valero, T16 at the Valspar. So I'll play some Kuchar. Doesn't look like he's going to be too chalky, which I'm kind of happy about. And again, it's just a short game course, and you can get away with like average approach play if your short game is really good here. We've seen that with Kuchar, Webb, all those type of guys. So I like him. I like Kevin Na in tournaments, ton of upside. He's played pretty well the last couple of weeks. Him posting the top 15 at the Masters was pretty impressive. It seems like those shorter guys, when the weather gets bad at the Masters, they just seem to play a lot better. Maybe it's because the par 5s get a lot tougher and they turn to 3-shot holes. I'm not sure what it is, but he played well last week. I'm going to Harman. And then Hadwin. Hadwin just seems like the easiest play of the week. I mean, I know the course history isn't amazing, but 3 straight top 10s, really good short game. The irons have been on fire. I kind of like Hadwin too, so.
You mentioned the shorter hitters doing better at the Masters when the weather gets bad. Wasn't it like really rainy and crappy the year that Zach Johnson laid up on all the par 5s and won?
Yep.
It's just, there's definitely something to that. I think negating the advantage of the bigger hitters on the par 5s might have something to do with it. But you got a lot of those guys. Those are the guys that are in this field on this tighter, shorter, tree line track because it's not a driver heavy course and it caters to their games. And it's no surprise that guys like Webb and Kuchar have had success here in the past. So it all kind of adds up to a good week for those guys at Harbortown most of the time. So so I like Harman in that range as well. I think Harman and Hadwin are definitely the guys that stand out. We don't have a whole lot of differences of opinion in this pricing range. Anybody a little lower owned that looks okay in the numbers in that kind of 7.4, 7.5K range?
Kokrak is interesting. Finally showed some life, and I mean he's won 3 times in the last 18 months or whatever. It looks like he's going to be under 10%. Very boomer bust course history, but if you're playing MME, I don't mind taking a little bit of him just because we know the upside is a win.
Yeah, for sure. I think he's interesting in tournaments as well. Interesting to see Cameron Young back in the field this week, but it seems like the shine has worn off a little bit after he was one of the more popular kind of flops last week. We go to the lower end of the 7K range. Got some guys that sometimes get some buzz. JJ Spawn, obviously, won a few weeks ago. Munoz in here sometimes gets popular. Everybody knows I like Knox on a ball strikers course at 7,300. So Knox and Glover, I think, are the 2 guys that might be worth a look at lower ownership at the bottom part of the 7K range. Who are you looking at in there?
Yeah, I agree on those 2. I also think Munoz is interesting. You mentioned him. His tee to green number has been very good. Recently, it's just been the putter that's been letting him down. So I think he's interesting. Don't have a lot else. I mean, I think Howell is coming off of a really good finish, but he doesn't have the course history that I was expecting. Typically, he loves these type of tracks in the weaker fields, the shorter courses. But I guess he did finish top 20 here last year. Don't really love a lot else in this range. I didn't even see Ricky was in the field. Oh, that's I wish I wouldn't have.
I was gonna say that's probably for the better for you.
He really projects poorly if I didn't even see him. I usually give notes on like the top 70 in my model. So that's not good.
Poor Ricky. The mighty have fallen for sure for Mr. Fowler there at 7K. I mean, he's cheaper than Anibon Lahiri and Sepp Straka and all these guys. It's yikes. All right. Yeah, I don't have much else above 7K either. I don't mind taking. What about? Did you mention Hoagie earlier?
No, but if you like iron play, I mean, this guy's one of the top 3 or 4 in the field and career year. So I don't mind that play.
Yeah, he's been fantastic. I mean, we talk about guys having good 2022 calendar years so far. Hoagie has been one that doesn't seem to get as much buzz, obviously, but keeps on playing well and keeps on being, kind of underrated in betting models and thus DFS salaries. He's never super high. So, all right, 6K punts. I think the 6K range is really interesting this week because I could see this tournament just being wonky, turning into a wedge fest. Somebody gets hot, somebody makes enough putts, and it just becomes their time. I mean, look, the number 2 money list guy on this course all time is Luke Donald. And so if Luke Donald can do it, and I posted this on Twitter yesterday, I put 4 bets on DraftKings. I used my crowns. I had $200 in crowns. I placed 4 bets on outright winners that were all either 400 or 500 to 1. So if I'm hoping for one mini sweat come the weekend, if I get one mini sweat out of those crowns, they all pay at least 28 grand for my 400 and 500 to 1 winners.
Well, who are they?
$70 on Adam Svensson to win at 400 to 1, 70 on Roger Sloan at 400 to 1. So we're going Canadian. 60 on Werenski at 500 to 1, and 60 on Norlander at 500 to 1. Like, these are all guys that we've seen upside from. We've seen upside from Svensson just a month or so ago. And last year, I mean, Norlander or Werenski, I mean, those are guys that would have been 70 or 80 to 1 in this field. And granted, they haven't had the same 2022 calendar year, but like Werenski's played better his last couple events. I think he had missed like 10 of 12 cuts or something like that, but he's made his last 2. So those are guys that, I mean, I think they're basically min salary everywhere. Obviously they're 400, 500 to 1. I certainly don't expect one of these guys to win, but if they do, I used my crowns and I got like $30,000 out of it. And it's a great story. And if they don't, we'll just rip the tickets up, the digital tickets up. So, and I mean, these are guys that in GPPs, heck, sprinkle some of them in there. Like Svensson, I've played enough, might as well do it again. And I don't know, maybe it's not those 4 guys. Maybe you got somebody else, or, maybe somebody's playing Luke Donald still because of his course history, or maybe somebody likes a Hudson Swafford or a Neesmith or something like that. And all these guys are in the 6Ks. Like Joel Damon is 6,800. I joked about Doug Gim earlier, but he's 6,900. Danny Willett was up there again last week for a while at the Masters at 6,900. So I don't know. I just think there's going to be a couple guys in here that really surprise at under 7K this week. So I'm going to take some shots on some of those guys.
I love that, using your crowns for some upside. No point in doing a basketball game, something like that. So love that. The model does like Norlander and Svensson, so that's pretty good. I'll have a couple shares of them. The model also likes Tringali and Pat Perez, more long-term plays, but they've been pretty bad here. I don't think I'll end up using more than 5% of them, but maybe I'll keep them in the player pool. After that, it's pretty ugly. Cam Davis did make the cut last week at the Masters. He's a guy that makes a ton of birdies. So if he finishes, T40, you kind of expect him to outscore that finishing position. He's at 6,800. And then Neesmith does rate out pretty well, but if he's going to be double-digit ownership, I'm fine just taking my chances with a full fade.
Yeah, it's probably going to be, he'll be the most popular in this range, I think. I mean, not like it's going to be outrageous, but yeah, there's enough other boom bust plays in here that, I don't mind spreading it out to some lower owned guys. So I already gave like 4 or 5 of them that I've got exposure to, so I'm not going to go out on too many more limbs. Sable is asking in the chat, any love for Wes Bryan? That's a name we haven't heard in a while. He's not one of the guys I bet at 400 to 1, but he probably is 400 to 1, just like those other guys. So doesn't look like your numbers like him too much.
So I was just pulling up his numbers. So he does have a win here. I think it was 2017. He's also T25 here last year, coming off of a 15th at Corrales. So if you are, throwing some deep punts, I don't mind it. But the recent numbers off the tee.
Yeah, that's right. I earned myself another $70 worth of crowns.
Yes. There you go. But yeah, the off the tee numbers have been concerning, and hopefully that's not an issue this week.
I mean, when he's bad off the tee, it's bad.
Like I played him at the John Deere one year, and he couldn't even make it to the fairway. It was one of the worst performances I've ever seen. So
yeah, you'll know in 9 holes if it's just dead or not. Like there's no in between with him. Definitely GPP only when it comes to DFS, and in the mix of the 400 to 1 long shots if you want. So not a name that was on my radar this week, but yeah, I can see the logic behind it. Certainly not any worse than the logic I used for some of my guys. So
what about Lonto? I mean, 6,800 in this field. I mean, he's been
whenever
bad.
He's under 7K.
Oh yeah, that's the
thing.
Roll,
so
right?
Yeah, I'm in. He'll be in my GPP pool, I bet.
3%. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean the form obviously isn't anything to write home about, but that's why he's 6,800 in this field. So it's basically priced in. So in terms of ceiling, you can't argue with that at that salary for him.
Yeah. One more question. CT Pan, Brian Stewart, Nate Lashley. Any interest in those guys?
I would probably maybe CT Pan if I had to pick one. I'd have to do a deeper dive though. I haven't looked at him too deep. He would probably be the guy. Looks like he's got about 4% ownership. Form hasn't been horrible.
Don't mind Stewart either. A guy known for fairways and putting. So
he plays well in these types of courses.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lashley would be a third for me as well. So the other 2 guys I think are in the mix. So
yeah, I think for the most part, I'm trying to build 7 and up just because there's a lot of strong plays in the mid to upper 7Ks.
Yeah, and in theory, should see a little bit higher percentage of 6 of 6, 5 of 6 lineups this week. This is not compared to last week, but compared to the normal full field PGA Tour events, because a lot of them are 156 or 144 golfers. This one is only 132, so slightly smaller field. A larger percentage of the golfers will make the cut compared to 156 golfer field. So just based on math, obviously, if all the chalk busts, then that's a different story and doesn't end up coming to fruition. But just based on the numbers, you would expect more 6 of 6 lineups this week. So any other thoughts before we get out of here for you?
I don't think so. I do think everyone has a Masters hangover. So if you
a little quiet tonight.
If you can find that extra motivation to dig a little deeper, maybe it is the week that it pays off.
All right, for sure. Again, fun tournament. If you don't usually follow it or watch it, it's a cool event, a cool course. So enjoy it, build some lineups, give yourself a sweat. Bet the 400 to 1 winners with me. Maybe somebody else bets some of those guys, and then it hits. I mean, then we really got a party. Like other people are, whatever your crowns are. It doesn't have to be $200 worth of crowns. Maybe you got $40 worth of crowns, and you put 4 $10 bets on some of those 6K guys. And if a crapper wins this tournament, doesn't have to be the same guys I put out there. Doesn't have to be the guys Noto likes, whoever it is. If you got a 6K crapper in DFS that you like, bet your crowns on them to win this week, whatever your crowns are on DraftKings. And then if somebody horrible wins this tournament, I want to see somebody posting some tickets to us with that golfer next week. And if Dustin Johnson wins, we'll just pretend like this conversation didn't happen. So it's win-win for everybody. But with that, we'll go ahead and call it a show for this week for you. Appreciate all of you checking us out and building some lineups along with it. Hope you enjoyed the Masters. And until then, not until then. Masters is for another 51 weeks, as much as we want to try to bring it back. But until next week, for our producer, Steve, working hard for us behind the scenes, and for Noto, I am Justin. Have a great week, everybody, and we will catch you later.